Hi, and welcome to Mrs. PM Reads. Today, we are continuing in our story, Zoo by James Patterson and Michael Ledwidge. And we are in book 2, I believe, and we're going to start in chapter 16. In our last video, Oz had landed in Botswana. No, well, not Botswana, but wherever he landed. And where did he land? Anyway, Johannesburg. He landed in Johannesburg going to Botswana to look at the lions. And his guide, Abraham, said he couldn't help him out right away because he can't find his brother. So he needed to go look for his brother. And they went searching, got to the village where he had been, and found a few people trying to go and search for 2 tour groups that went out and have never returned. So that's where we're picking it up in chapter 16. A little less than a mile northeast of the safari camp's river dock, 2 massive male lions lounge on the highest rocks in their pride area. They lie on their stomachs, still as golden rugs, panting, catching the breeze. Their impassive amber eyes lazily scan the horizon. Like dogs, but unlike humans, lions are unable to sweat through their skin. Their only effective means of thermoregulation is panting. The heavy breathing they are doing now, though, isn't from the heat or even from exertion. It's from eating. Oh no. Beneath them, scattered throughout the thorny scrub of the forest glen, swarms of fat, shiny flies hover above the meat that lies rotting under the sun's steady blaze. They tickle across the bones, collectively making a wavy, droning noise like a cello, holding a note in a sustained vibrato. Human bodies, or rather, human body parts, are strewn in the bloody grass. Rib cages and hip bones shine white as aspirin under the blinding sun. The rest of the pride is arranged in a large, loose circle around the bones. Vultures hop around in the mess, their wings like shrugging shoulders, their necks like little worms, yanking rubber snap strings of meat off the skeletons with their beaks. Ugh. The lioness says, and the cubs have eaten their fill and are happily active now, tumbling around in the grass. The 2 males are massive as golden hills. They are brothers, twins, almost identical, except now the older one is missing an eye, recently lost while taking over the pride. The brothers, having killed 2 of the former alpha males and driven off the 3rd, have further established their dominance by devouring all their rivals' cubs. 4 young females. But the swell of power and dominance they felt when they took over was a feeble feeling compared to the killing of the 2 human groups. A new feeling has overtaken the lions, a new understanding, one that changed their perception of humans from fellow predators, irritating, inconsequential animals to be ignored mostly, into prey. They saw them coming. 2 of the smaller, swifter lionesses had climbed into a sausage tree above the tire trail and lain in wait. When the cars passed, the lionesses dropped in from above on the open metal boxes full of pathetically weak mammals. Once those big naked monkeys were on their slow, idiotic feet, it had been a quick rout. fruit. It wasn't because the lions were particularly hungry. The humans had been nothing compared to the 1,800-pound Cape buffalo, the pride's more typical prey. The cars had been like boxes full of snacks. The two males slip off the rock, first one and then the other. They amble through the pride, heads held high, ears perked up. Oh my goodness. Mouths closed, tails swishing from side to side. After a moment, the females begin to follow, heads held low. As the two lions approach, a vulture standing. We're going to skip those couple sentences. The one-eyed lion nudges the meat with his paw. He holds it down and takes a bite, his jaw making a popping sound as his teeth efficiently peel meat off the bone. After a moment's chewing, he looks up and turns his remaining eye to the east. His ears swivel, his nostrils dilate. His sense of hearing is only slightly above average, but the glands around his chin, lips, cheeks, and whiskers give him a powerful sense of smell. He smells something. He glances at his brother, who is looking in the same direction now. Humans. The two convey to each other with a glance, a growl. More humans. The two males turn to the pride, changing their expressions and postures. They go through a repertoire of vocalizations, varying intensity and pitch, telling everyone what to do. This is chapter 17. A chattering flock of storks burst from a treetop as we drove through a field some 3 miles or so north of the camp. They were marabou storks, distinguished by their wiry white hair, featherless pink necks, and tuxedo plumage. Carrion eaters often found with vultures around carcasses. Undertaker birds, they're called. Abe grimaced up at them. He was projecting a cool facade, but I could tell he was worried, which made me worried. Actually, I had already been worried. Since we'd landed at the deserted camp, I'd found myself thinking about my first trip to Africa. It was a grad school field trip to the famous rock beds of the Karoo Desert region in South Africa, which showed one of the world's clearest geological snapshots of the history of life. What I kept thinking about was a layer of sediment from the 250 million years ago that was completely empty of fossils. The lack of fossils in the rock was evidence of the Permian Triassic extinction event. PTR in geology shorthand. PTR, or the Great Dying, was the biggest and baddest of Earth's major extinction events. 90% of all species on the planet rapidly perished. It took many millions of years for the Earth's biodiversity to recover. There have been 5 such major extinction events. Statistically, we're about due for one. The KT event, the one that killed the dinosaurs, was almost certainly caused by an asteroid impact. But we're still not sure about PTR. Some theorize that PTR extinction was caused by volcanic activity, or maybe an asteroid, or cosmic radiation. But no one really knows exactly why almost all the animals, vegetation, and insects in the world suddenly died. It was the mysterious nature of that ancient total global ecosystem collapse that made the present HAC, remember HAC, activity so unsettling. An animal's behavior is the result of millions of years of evolution, thousands upon thousands of generations of adaptation. This evolution happens in response to changes in the environment. The environment changes, and some animals adapt to it. Some don't. To suddenly observe such behavior in wildly different species of animals all over the world wasn't just alarming, it was unprecedented. I opened my camera case and began to ready my video camera. I clipped in the battery, polished the lens, strapped on the shoulder mount. As we rolled deeper into the Okavango Delta in search of the missing tourists, I was suspecting more strongly that some kind of macro-level environmental disturbance was underway. I'd clapped in a new mini DV tape, digital video, I guess, DV tape, and was switching on my pricey-ass Sony image stabilizer when there was a commotion behind me. Abe's 2 Rhodesian Ridgebacks started barking like hell. Then, in an instant, my camera was no longer in my hands, and something hard and cold was pressed against my throat and collarbone. One of the men in the back was holding something against my neck, which I guessed was a machete, as that was what the other man had against Abe's neck. Abe brought the truck to a careful stop and began speaking in Setswana to the man holding the machete to his throat. Abe's negotiation skills seemed to be all that stood between me and a severed jugular. My heart was going like a jackhammer. I could feel every hair on my arm standing straight up. The man holding the machete to Abe's throat kept shaking his head and gesturing back in the direction behind us. Abe kept talking. The man shook his head. No, 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 no. Many, many no's. He said, no, man. The man lowered the machete in order to hop out of the car. He held the machete pointed at Abe, but was only half paying attention as he worked with the other hand to liberate the Winchester from the gun rack. Abe reached into the inner lining of his utility jacket, and his hand came out holding a nasty little snub-nosed .38 Special. Abe put the pistol barrel, between the man's eyes. They crossed just as curlies do when Mo pokes him in the nose. The man took his hands off the rifle and lowered the machete. Then the guy behind me removed the machete from my neck. The men and the teenager exchanged glances, shrugged as though they just lost a bet fair and square, and hopped out of the truck. Without another word to us, they started walking away, back in the direction we'd come from. The dogs growled and barked after them, but Abe whistled them silent. Abe was red-faced and shaking. At first, I thought it was from fear. Then I realized it was mostly anger. Cowards! Abe yelled back at them between his cupped hands. Boogie shite asses! Scoundrels! He spat brown juice out the window, wiped his face on his sleeve, cursed under his breath, and released the clutch. Superstitious, traitorous, idiot, boogie sons of bitches, he muttered, half to me and half to himself, maybe half to the dogs. It's just us now, gents. I leaned back in my seat and wiped sweat off my face as I closed my eyes. My pulse was still hammering when I turned and lifted the camera off the seat behind me. Maybe Natalie had been right about my coming here to Africa, I thought. A cubicle in an air-conditioned office building wasn't looking quite so terrible to me right now. chapter 18. I don't know if you can hear it. We're back to yard work by my neighbors. I got some weed whacking going on next door. I hope you can't hear it. All right, chapter 18. A couple of miles farther north, we came upon some salt flats forked by a river delta. The scenery beyond them was breathtaking. An endless patchwork of more grassland and salt flats ran as far as the eye could see. I can understand why rich European and American tourists came to the Okavango Delta for safaris. The landscape was spectacular. The trail we'd been following passed through a ford into one of the river deltas. Jesus, are you sure? Was all I could get out before Abe impassively stomped the accelerator and plowed us headlong into a swirling water the color of chocolate milk. The water came up to the truck's door handles. I was expecting the motor to quit at any moment. I mentally prepared myself to go swimming. We got wet. You New Yorkers, Abe said, pushing us through the flood with his hand on the clutch and his foot on the gas, getting us through it with a mixture of horsepower and will. He jerked his hat brim at the snorkel on the side of the truck. Got it handled, man. Leave it to Beaver. We slogged through to the other side and up the steep, muddy bank onto a plain of tall, light green grass, maybe about 3 or 4 acres wide. A path of tire tracks cut straight across it toward a lagoon that sparkled like silver, where a herd of 70 or so Cape buffalo were shouldering each other in the shallows. Look sharp, Abe said, pointing to the herd. We're getting close now. Those are the buffaloes the lions hunt. I almost dropped the camera when Abe stomped the brake and brought us to an abrupt stop halfway to the lagoon. At the other end of the tall glade of faded grass, an open Land Rover exactly like ours, with the name of the safari company on the side, was parked by a sausage tree. Abe took a pair of binoculars from one of his kit bags and stood up on his seat. He slowly swept the glasses over the grassy plain. Then he lowered the binoculars, draped the strap over his neck, sat back down, and drove cautiously across the clearing toward the empty truck. We stopped beside the vehicle and got out. Something shiny caught Abe's eye. He bent down to the ground and lifted something off the grass. I zoomed in on it with the camera. It was a woman's gold Cartier tank watch. It looked as out of place here in the African belt as a shrunken head would have on a plate at the Four Seasons. The alligator strap was encrusted with blood. We got back in the truck and kept bunking and rocking over the grass. We weren't talking. There were clothes littering the ground around the empty truck, and the trunk of the sausage tree scattered among the grass and the dwarf savanna shrubs. Blood stiffened scraps of shirts, pants, a woman's sneaker, a fanny pack. Bits of fabric flew across the fields. There was a piece of what looked like a Hawaiian shirt stuck in the tree, fluttering on a branch like a flag. Abe looked into the canopy of the trees and then over at the Land Rover. Look, man, he said, pointing. See the rifle? It's not even out of the rack. The safari guides who go out with the guests, they're no superstitious pussies like our dear kooky friends back there. They are professionals. This all must have happened in seconds. Too fast for them to get to their guns. Male lions will protect their pride from humans, but this looks like some sort of ambush, I offered, trying to be helpful. And what did they do with the bodies? Abe said, lions usually feed where they kill. I've never seen anything like this. And that is where we're going to stop. Next time we'll be on chapter 19. All right, so I do want to remind you, this side, to please click the subscribe button. If you want to keep on top of when a new video posts, you're just going to click that little bell tab and you'll get a notification when the next video posts. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. I would stay away from lions, and I will see you next time. Bye.